Hello everyone. Today we're discussing another urgent case as it's still developing from the weekend, after a woman's boat was discovered washed ashore on Vancouver Island. And in a strange twist, just 3 years prior, another woman would vanish from that same area after being offered to go on a date on a boat from that same town. Just after 2 p.m. on Thursday, May 15th of 2025, a 10-meter sailboat called the Gypsy Soul will be discovered off the coast of Nanaimo, located on the eastern shore of British Columbia's Vancouver Island. The boat would specifically be found near Bayshore Drive off Hammond Bay Road, and no one was discovered to be on the boat. However, when checked, it was registered to a 34-year-old woman named Amber Nitchman, who is currently missing. Nanaimo RCMP Constable Gary O'Brien would tell the media that the authorities don't exactly know when Amber may have set sail. However, that's something they're still trying to figure out. And they're still in the process of trying to fill in the blanks, such as, was Amber actually on the boat? Was she the only person on the boat? When was the last time Amber was seen? Was the boat seen traversing a certain area? Was she wearing a life jacket? Did she possibly go someplace, as it's surmised and the sailboat was inadvertently set adrift? Or could she possibly have been knocked overboard by high winds or waves? Russell Berg, who is a media liaison, an advanced crew member with the Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue for Nanaimo, would also be called around 2 p.m. that day to investigate the empty boat, saying, quote, "So we went out to investigate. No one was on board, but there was some indication that someone had been on board. We cover the same ground over and over again with different assets because it's a very challenging task to go out there and stare at the gray for 4 hours and try to pick out any tiny detail that might be present that might help us find the subject we're looking for." End quote. Searches for Amber would begin as soon as her boat was found, with authorities bringing in helicopters and several Coast Guard assets who did multiple searches of the area. The searches began both at sea and on land after the sailboat was discovered, and thankfully the weather conditions were favorable during this 10-hour search. According to Berg, over Thursday and Friday, crews searched from the east side of Nanoose Bay to Winchelsea Islands, and then south to Entrance Island and Gabriola Island. They also made a point to note that even though the weather conditions were extremely good, a 1-foot wave could hide someone floating in the water in a life jacket. So on May 15th, when her boat was discovered, crews worked until around 11 p.m. that night. Then the following day on May 16th, they started around 8 a.m. and then finished around 4 p.m. that day. And once absolutely nothing had been found, the case ended up being handed over to the RCMP. However, tips would begin to come in, and in one particular tip, it said that it placed Amber's boat moored at a local island on Monday, May 12th. Her sister Raven would also begin to speak up online with information in an attempt for her sister to be found. According to Raven, evidence indicates that Amber planned to leave Nanaimo Thursday at 7 a.m. for Texada. It has not been confirmed that my sister was aboard her boat or that she went overboard. Her boat was found with the motor down and running. Sails were up and gas still in the tank. Radar indicates her vessel slowed at 9 a.m. RCMP has not yet checked radar for other vessels in the area, 8 kilometers offshore from Nanaimo Harbor, between 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thursday, May 15th. When we come down to it, we really don't know much information about Amber or the situation leading up to her boat being found the way it was. And since there is not really much information on this case, I did take to Facebook. I was reading people's comments, and I did find one particular comment on Facebook that I found interesting, but keep in mind, this is a Facebook comment. Anyone could have just written this. But an individual named Chris Lee wrote, quote, "April 1st, a friend and I picked her up in Ucluelet. She was hitchhiking back to Nanaimo and then the Cowichan to work on the engine. She told me she had just purchased the boat. She was really nice. I hope she is found. I find it oddly similar to the girl that went missing about a year ago. She had also recently purchased a boat and was in Nanaimo Harbor." End quote. Now, I wasn't able to find the case that this person was mentioning. If you know about it, let me know down below. But interestingly, in 2022, a woman named Laura Huebner, who was either 45 or 47 years old, would also vanish in a very similar way. Laura is described as a single woman working 3 jobs at the time, including costume design. She had been speaking with a friend about working on a movie together that summer and was excited about the opportunity. She was described as high energy, really motivated and driven. She was also very passionate about fashion. However, she had just lost her mother a few months before. The pandemic was finally over, and she had been working extremely hard. So she wanted to travel to Victoria, BC for a break. So on April 24th of 2022, Laura boarded a flight from her home in Regina, Saskatchewan, and flew to Vancouver Island. But it would turn out that Laura actually had plans to meet a man once she got to the island, a man that she had met online that none of her friends and family knew. Soon after arriving, Laura's friends say that this man ended up offering to take Laura on a date on his sailing boat. And she would actually send a photo to her dad on April 25th, her last communication before vanishing. This photo showing a picture of a boat she was on. One friend saying, quote, "She was planning on coming back because we talked about working together. She was excited about going back and working on some films. So I know she wasn't planning to go away and not come back." End quote. Laura was scheduled to return on Thursday, April 28th around midnight, but it was confirmed that she never boarded her flight in Victoria. And when Laura didn't return home and completely dropped communications with her friends and family, they were immediately concerned and reported her missing. And the days would begin to pass, with her return flight missed, no calls or texts to her family or friends, and completely no social media activity. According to the RCMP, surveillance footage does confirm that Laura arrived at the Victoria International Airport, and that's where her sightings end. It's thought that she did leave Victoria on the 24th of April, the same day she arrived, and that she arrived in Nanaimo later that day. The boat she sent her dad the photo of was also tracked down to Nanaimo, where police escorted it into dock on Monday, May 2nd, where it appeared to be guarded by RCMP, and its deck was tarped off to protect it from the rainfall. Now, it's never been officially released by police who the owner of this boat is. However, if you do a little digging online, it is quite easy to find a lot of people accusing a certain individual, and this man's name has been brought up over and over again. And since we don't know for sure, I don't think police will ever really release this information because, as we know, the authorities in Canada are really tight-lipped about naming suspects. I'm not going to say his name, but you can easily find it online. And what I did read about him, what people were posting and sharing, he does have numerous charges for violent offenses, including stabbing someone to death when he was 19 years old. So if it is this man, that is extremely concerning. And it's even more concerning because it has been 3 years since Laura disappeared and she still hasn't been found. I don't think these two cases are linked, but it is concerning that there have now been 2 women who have disappeared surrounding, sailboats in this same town. And what's even more concerning is that in Laura's case, it has been years and police have not done anything, it seems. The media has not been talking about this case since she disappeared. There really aren't any recent articles. And that makes me even more concerned for Amber then, because could her case go the same way as Laura's? And I think in order to prevent that, we need to continue to talk about Amber's case, and we also need to talk about Laura's case here. Amber disappeared only a few days ago as I'm filming this video, just last week. And if her case could get as much attention as Lily and Jack's case, I think we could get more answers. Police need to know that there are people out there who want answers, and that there is a whole army behind her. I think every case should get as much attention as Lily and Jack's, yet there are so many cases that don't. That's why I think it's so great that we can sit here and talk about these cases. So if you're able to share out this video, share out the missing persons flyers, do whatever you can to spread the word out there, it can greatly help get some traction. And if you have any more information that I wasn't able to find, let's have a conversation down below in the comment section. I'll be down there chatting with you all. And let's take one more good look at these women. Laura is described as a Caucasian woman standing 5 foot 8 inches tall, weighing around 140 pounds. She has blonde hair and brown eyes. She was last wearing blue jeans and a white jacket over a white hoodie. Unfortunately, there is no official description of Amber, but take one more good look at her. My heart goes out to these 2 families. I truly hope answers come soon. And as always, I hope you all stay safe out there, lock your windows and doors, and I hope to see you in the next video.